like I said, we do not, as of last count, we're a few short of having a quorum. So what we're going to do today is have our time for discussion. This will turn into an informational meeting because we can't have, according to the bylaws, we can't have a business meeting without a quorum.
Motion to dissolve the quorum.
Second.
Oh, there's a second. Okay. Well, we won't be able to vote on that today, but we can vote on that because we have to have a quorum to vote on that. But now so what you're asking is that to be added to the agenda of the next business meeting?
Yes, it is.
There it is. Okay.
How about this?
I second.
If you don't like it and you don't show up, then your vote is a yes.
Well, excuse me.
Oh, hold on.
There's a purpose.
Okay, everybody, Debbie's talking and she's got laryngitis, so we all have to like lean in.
I'm just saying that there's a purpose behind that, though. I mean, I understand everybody wants to just absolve them, but there's a purpose behind. I don't think it should be permanently, maybe, done away with, because there's a purpose behind Robert's rules and all.
Right. Yeah, I'll repeat because somebody may not have heard. No offense. It's just
It's Robert's rules. There's a
Yeah.
purpose.
Yeah, I'll repeat if you don't mind and make sure I get it correct. So what Debbie is saying is there is a purpose for the quorum rule, in that I'll give you. Hey, we're not in a business meeting, so we can just visit. So my previous church did not have a quorum. Not my previous, one in Missouri. And so our chairman of deacons there was like, we are having church. I don't care if it's a business meeting. We are doing church. There's a blizzard, like 2 feet of snow. And so we called, his name was Charlie. We said, hey, Charlie, we still having, it's just business meeting that night. We still having business meeting tonight? Yeah, by golly, we're doing church. It's Sunday. So we did church. 3 people showed up. Charlie didn't show up. But the other 3 people, me, the pastor, and 1 other deacon showed up. And we said, well, we don't have a quorum rule. And this is an official announced business meeting, so we can do whatever we want. So that is the danger of not having a quorum, is that then, just being real, that is the danger, is that then you could have potentially business meetings where, a handful of people show up and then they make a decision for the entire church. So the rule would have to be an announced business meeting, something that people knew about, with at least 2, the way our rules are set up right now is before you can have a business meeting, you have to have at least 2 regular church scheduled sessions. That would be like a Wednesday and a Sunday where you can announce it before you can have a business meeting. So I think if we were to eliminate the quorum rule, it would be that there is a time to announce it to everybody so that everybody knows, and there's not like, hey, we're just going to do a special business meeting because there's 4 of us here and we're going to do everything we want to do.
Exactly.
Right.
So it can always be brought in if it has to.
Right. So that would be kind of where we go with that. Joe.
I just got a quick question on this quorum. Could we not base it on, like, when you announce it on Wednesday and a Sunday, the amount of people that actually heard it, and base the quorum on how many people heard it versus how many people show up? So if 200 people showed up, or heard it on
Sunday morning?
Wednesday and Sunday, you base the quorum on that.
You have to have such percentage
all
of that.
those people heard it and had a chance to come.
Yeah. I mean, that would take a little math and a little computating, but something like that.
Anything that can be done in a business meeting can be undone.
True.
The church finds out about it, and then we'll have plenty of people.
Yeah, if we decided to put in the indoor swimming pool because there's 3 of us here that wanted that. Yeah. That's a good point. Yes, ma'am, Sandy.
I would like to make a suggestion that we have our business meeting on Tuesday and not in December, which is one of the hardest months to have business meetings. And just maybe not maybe in December, since it's right in January when we start. Because
So to have like 2 business meetings.
it's hard, okay? And if we end up having this again, where we don't have enough people, it's harder. But I think we need to take it out of the month of December if possible, because it's just too many other things that people are doing. So we just use that as a reason not to.
It would just be I'll talk in the microphone. So what Sandy's suggesting is to move the business meeting sooner. I think we could do it still with 1 business meeting, just move it sooner where the stewardship committee and the nominating committee have their reports and everything ready sooner. Just those committees that we vote in wouldn't take effect till January. So anyway, we can do something like that maybe. But yeah, yes, sir, Ryan.
So I like what she's saying over there because the holiday season gets busy and,
Right.
and attendance is going to fall. Moving something to the left, though, always puts pressure on someone. The committees that you're talking about, are we cutting the amount of time that they're going to have to develop what they...
Yeah, they would have to come up with about a month sooner.
Or can they start earlier on that development? I'm not sure.
I think if they started earlier, it'd probably be okay. They would just have to do a couple
Are they
months
capable
earlier.
of starting earlier?
I think so. Yeah, the nominating committee doesn't meet. Well, yeah, because it just meets in all the other committees. Yeah. Okay.
Are we not allowed to have it on a Sunday after church?
I'm sorry.
Are we not allowed to have it a Sunday after church?
I'll repeat that. So Debbie's question is, can we not do this on a Sunday morning after church? Sure we can. So that's what we're going to do now. So this meeting, our annual business meeting now will be rescheduled to the 11th after the morning service, because that's the only way we could do it at this point. So that'll be after the morning service next Sunday. And then we will have, here's where Robert's rules messes up, because we don't have a quorum to add that. How do we add it to the minutes, to the agenda if we don't have? Yeah, well, I'm going to think on that. All right, so what I will tell you is we have the nominating ballot, okay? So I would encourage you to go ahead and have that filled out for next Sunday. If you didn't get one, there's some up here. I'll just clarify a few things on it real quick. The very last page, it's 3 pages. We made it a little bigger this year, and instead of like multiple columns, we made it just one column, so it's less confusing. So the last page are permanent positions that we don't need to vote on. The only exception to that is at the very bottom. We have a couple of new trustees that would like to be added, so we will have to vote on those at the very bottom, which would be Reese Cobb and Martin Ayers. But the rest of that is just kind of for your information, people that are serving in positions that we don't vote on every year. Okay, so the rest, and then one other thing to add, and then I'll get to you, Joe, is Lynn Sunday. Let's see, that would be like around line, let me find it, like line 34, where it says assistant team kids, okay, right above line 35 there. Write Lynn Sunday in there where it says vacant. That should be her name there, okay? She's helping with team kids, so she's an assistant in there, okay? So if you want to do that, add line 34C, let's call it, where it says vacant team kid assistant. Scratch out vacant, write Lynn Sunday, okay? Because she's the one running, interested in serving as the assistant in that role.
You said 34.
Yes, around line 34, where it's team kids assistant, okay? Now, Joe, what was your question?
This backlist where we don't vote on these people, we vote just to put them on there, but if they're on there, they never come off even, because there's some people on this list I have rarely seen
Right.
in church.
Well, it depends which ones you're talking about. There's a process for all of them in the bylaws. So, like, for example, the deacons, if you were wanting to get rid of, one of the deacons, or if there was a reason that he wasn't serving, then there's a process in the bylaws to do that. The tellers, they rotate through on a 3-year cycle, so they automatically rotate off. Stewardship is just people who are serving in another position are automatically on stewardship committee. So that's kind of where that's why we don't vote on some of those, is because they're already voted on in another place. So it's just kind of for clarification, who are our deacons, who's on stewardship, that sort of thing.
And are these people asked before we put them on this list if they're going to serve again?
Yeah, the nominating
And
committee.
there's not a requirement for showing up if they're going to be on this list? I mean, that,
Yeah, there is. They need to be. They're supposed to be active members.
Okay.
So, but yeah, and the nominating committee does go through and ask everybody if they're going to continue to serve. Yes, ma'am, Sandy.
Another reason why we may not have to do it, trying to get it balanced ahead of time. Because when we lose those people, they don't count unless so there's a violation.
Right.
Really rarely do we have time for it.
Do we have very many turned in?
Are we talking about early voting?
It's not your 10 ballots that have turned in already.
Huh.
So what's going to happen to those ballots, because Lynn Sunday's name's not on there.
Right. That's true. Well, okay, that's true.
Do I void those ballots?
Now, see, this is the issue. This is why I was never a politician. Okay, so I will never be elected to election supervisor. So technically, again, the bylaws are written to where for the nominating ballots, if they are turned in absentia, like an absentee ballot, they only are counted if there's a tie. They're the tie-breaking votes. So, if you don't have a quorum, we don't have a vote. So, I would say we count those ballots, and I don't think it'll be an issue if for Lynn, and we'll have maybe possibly some other write-ins. Lynn, don't stress on what I'm about to say. Everybody loves you. It's not going to be a problem, okay? But if for some reason it was close, then we might have to take that into consideration. Like if but it's not going to be an issue. Sure, we can do that way. Yeah, we can do that. Maybe we can clear up some of them that way. Sure. Right. Again, the quorum rule is those present. How many do we have live streaming, Tim? How many do we have on the live stream right now? 4. Boy, that's close.
Yeah, really. 2 more.
So close.
A
Yeah.
quorum of what number?
Of
Oh, you
30.
guys, they put a number on it.
We got to have 30. Yeah, there's a number in the bylaws. It has to be 30 present.
That's ridiculous.
30 active members present.
There should be a percentage of the active membership.
But I think with the.
Okay. Yes, Miss Tammy.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sorry. Was your hand up? Was I ignoring you this whole time?
I
I am so sorry. I didn't mean to ignore you.
Well, 3 times, you know what?
I am so sorry.
have a question, sir.
Throw something at me.
So for those of us who are super new to your lovely.
Oh, shh. Hey, guys, over here. 1 second. Guys, we only can talk one at a time, okay? We got to show respect to everybody. Right now, Tammy has the floor.
Thank you. I just need explanation because I'm looking at this bill and it really doesn't mean a whole lot to me. 'Cause
Okay.
I don't know these people and I'm not understanding. Are you voting one person out of this 5 that's under this list, or are we voting yes or no for each one of these people?
Great question. Thank you so much for asking. You're right. Sometimes we take those things like for granted. Thank you for asking. I'm sorry I was ignoring you. It wasn't meaning. Okay, so what you're voting for this on the nominating ballot is, and you're new. We got some other new people. So what this is for example, Tim Griffith is currently on the audio music committee. Okay, he's the chair, the director of that committee. And so what you're saying is, do we retain Tim on that committee? So under the leadership of the Holy Spirit, as we prayerfully consider this, do we feel like that's a right fit for him? And same thing with all the audio committee, the audit committee, the assimilation, all the different things that we have. So what you're doing is you're saying, it's kind of like a vote of confidence. So the way it is we have to have over 50%. So if, I'll pick on me. I'm the moderator. So I'm somewhere on there. My name is moderator. If we felt like I was doing a terrible job, which you wouldn't be wrong, and that I don't need to be retained as moderator, and we had, let's say, 51% or more of the people said, no, he is a terrible moderator, then I would step down from that position. We'd have to find somebody else. So this is basically like a vote of confidence to retain or to approve for somebody to serve in a position of leadership.
So what you're saying, though, is for the audit committee, we're voting on 4 people?
Yes, and you can vote on them individually. Yes, individually. So Linda, Vivian, Debbie, and Karen are all individually stepping up to serve on that committee. They say, I feel like that might be something I'd be interested in. And so the rest of the church body is approving or not approving of them to serve in that position. Say, yeah, I think that's a great fit for you, and I feel, as I prayerfully consider that, I feel good about that, or, I'm not sure it's the right place. Now most of the time I don't think we've ever had where somebody was voted down. So usually it's pretty, but we want to give everybody the opportunity to speak to who the leadership is on different committees. So that's why we do this. Does that answer that question? Kind of?
Yeah, because what I really wanted to know is it like, politics and Linda is going to win over Karen or
Oh,
Debbie, is
yeah.
what
No,
I'm saying.
right. No. Yeah. It's not like a runoff vote where you're voting for one of the 4. Thank you for. Yeah. It's just for 4. That's individually. You vote for each individually. Yeah, good question. Let me see. Is this maybe something related to
It would
this?
be nice if we had competing people trying to volunteer.
That would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
online could be counted as part of the quorum, even though they weren't physically.
I think we could.
Right.
Just saying possibly we could register people who are live streaming as part of the quorum. Okay, so I'll have to look into how we can look into adding or that to the agenda for the next time. But that's the nominating report. Also on here we have the 2023, and first of all, before we move on, any questions? Like I said, I want to try to do most of the discussion today, because this is really the informational discussion time. So on the nominating report, any questions? Yes, sir, Joe.
One, and I'll keep.
No, ask
last
away.
thing on this.
That's what we're here for.
Can we just run a line all the way down, if it's all yes?
If you want to.
Check, tick, 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 tick.
Sure, whatever. Yeah, if you want to, however you want to mark it, just make it clear for the nominating committee as they're counting it. Okay, any other questions on the nominating report ballot?
Well, I'm not sure, I couldn't hear anything that they were saying, and is it important to me?
Did I not repeat it? What was it? No, wait, now I got to remember what they were saying. They were asking questions about process, and I'm not sure. Right, possibly moving the meeting to earlier in the year, where it's maybe not competing with the holidays so much. That was one of the things that was mentioned. I might have. I should have repeated better.
Because right now, a lot of people won't drive in the dark.
True. Maybe earlier. Maybe just after church Sunday morning. Maybe that's how we do it. Okay. Other questions on the nominating ballot? Okay. Then we'll move on to the 2023 budget proposal. This is, there is, if you look at the bottom line, so what the budget is, let me kind of explain this. Let me do a better job of explaining. This is for the undesignated giving. There's two types of giving in a church. There's designated and undesignated. Designated means I'm giving it to this ministry. I want to buy a rocking chair for the nursery. I'm going to start the rocking chair fund, and I'm going to give money. And then the church can only, if they accept that money, the church can only spend that money on a rocking chair without going to the donor and saying, hey, trying to change their mind. You know what I mean? Without talking to them, you can only spend it on what the donor says. Okay, that's a designated gift. This budget is not about designated gifts. Okay, so if anybody wants to give to rocking chairs, please don't. But if you did, you could. Please don't. But there is this is for the undesignated gifts. So when you throw that $500 of cash in the offering plate every week, that's undesignated. Okay, goes to the operating expenses and ministry of the church. Okay, so that's what this budget's for. Is all those undesignated, just money to the church, my regular tithe. You know, and this is how. So this is kind of a guideline for how the church is going to plan on spending it. So stewardship committee has looked over this. They've prayerfully considered saying they've asked all the ministry leaders from last year, kind of what they're planning for next year, how much they think they'll spend, all that. And so this is kind of this is the budget for 2023 budget proposal. Okay. And it gives them boundaries and a guideline for, they can't really spend more than that. It'd be great if they spend a little less. But, you know, it's kind of a boundaries for what we think they'll be in ministry and everything next year. So if you look down this, again, the bottom line, we did reduce the budget for 2023 by $20,000, well, $19,000. So there's a budget reduction. But there are, and most of the budget, if you look down from 2022 to 2023, if you read through those two columns, it's pretty much the same. With the only kind of exceptions are general maintenance, because we're doing so much construction and remodeling starting actually tomorrow. We believe we'll need less. We had $64,000 set aside for maintenance. We believe we'll need a little less because so much is going to be refreshed as part of a separate budget item. So that's been reduced. There's a few other little changes in the ministries, some went up, some went down, but they're all pretty close to the same. The only other real change is the personnel. There's a cost of living adjustment that's set by Social Security Administration. And this year, because of inflation, the cost of living adjustment's ridiculous. Because everything's gotten more expensive. And so Social Security has helped, they set that number with, here's the values for that. Yeah.
What's the care ministry? Because it went from 200 to 0.
Care ministry was the ministry that was taking food to the homebound and things like that. Remember they had those like frozen trays? I don't know if you were here for that. That's not something that's actively been happening the last couple of years, and so they spent zero money for like the last 2 or 3 years. Okay. It's just kind of a ministry that's dissolved. I mean, we'll still take food to those who are sick and everything. We just aren't actively buying materials for that anymore or whatever. Good question. Yes, ma'am.
You know, when you have insurance, lawn service, fine. But the other stuff like pest control or waste pickup or assimilation, men's ministry, do you use all that money?
No, not usually.
There's some left over, right?
Well, some yes, some no. I mean, it varies, but no. Actually, for the biggest area where there is some, for the most part, where the top section where it says building, the bottom section where it says personnel, that's pretty well set.
Well, the personnel,
But the middle section of ministries, that's sometimes like say children's church, they might spend a little more. They might spend Actually, they don't spend more, but they don't spend the full amount. They might necessarily always. It's just kind of a guideline. It says, this might be pretty close. And what they have to do is, let me clarify this too. They have to turn in a stewardship request if they're going to spend money. So they need to talk to stewardship and say, hey, I want to buy this curriculum for $100. Is that okay? And stewardship will look at the budget, look at and make a determination.
Yeah, because the cost of living is going up.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Thinking,
Yeah. Yeah, so that's why that cost of living.
Money.
So on the personnel, the cost of living, she was saying cost of living is going up. On the personnel, the cost of living adjustment's in there because we didn't have that in there for about 30 years. And so, actually since really the history of the church until a few years ago. And so for like Debbie, who worked there for 30 years, she was still getting paid at like a 1985 rate, even though it was 2012 or 2018, whatever. And so, because she never got a raise and never got a cost of living adjustment. So that we said we need to catch up to where we're at least figuring and keeping up with inflation. So that's kind of where that is.
Yes, good.
Any other questions on the budget? Yes, sir.
No, not about the budget.
Okay. Well, I'll open up for other questions at the end for just random questions, but for now, budget questions. Okay, this is our time for discussion. I'm hoping Sunday morning we just vote. And maybe we'll open up for brief discussion, but for the most part, this is the discussion time. Yes, ma'am, Laura.
You did say if it was a ministry and they wanted to make a purchase, that they needed to present it to the stewardship committee.
Yes.
And is there a limit? Like if I want to spend $25, and I'm in children's church, I need to present it to the.
Right. Yeah, she's asking if let's say you're in children's church, you want to spend $25 on something, do you need to go to stewardship? Really, yes. Let's talk to stewardship and say, hey, I'm planning on spending this, and is that money in the budget? Is that okay? Just so we're sure that we're on track and nothing's getting crazy.
If you are wanting to get reimbursed for what you spend.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. So like I'll tell my horror story. So we're just visiting. We're just having fun tonight. Anyway, so previous church, women's ministry director, not this church, another church, had the most lavish, amazing women's retreat. It was awesome. They had $2,000 budgeted for it, but she spent $12,000 wanting to get reimbursed. Well, she went over budget $10,000. The ladies had a great time. The massages, it was wonderful.
Wow.
But the bill came in, and they're like, you spent, 6 times the budget? So they said, we'll reimburse you $2,000, which is your budget. Thank you for your donation of the other $10,000. She wasn't happy.
Wow.
But she she just totally disregarded the budget. Didn't even talk to stewardship. So there is a little bit of that. That if somebody goes rogue and says, I'm going to spend $10,000 and expect to get reimbursed even though my budget's $500. Thank you for a donation of $9,500.
Right.
We appreciate that, but we can't reimburse you.
That would go the same if you use the credit card or you spend any money, want to be reimbursed. If you don't turn in a receipt, it's a non sequitur. We ain't
Yeah.
into it.
So if you do have a church credit card, please help Laura by turning in receipts. Otherwise, she's guessing. Like, I have no idea what you spent $100 on Amazon for, and I'm just going to, so make it easier for her, okay? Turn in a receipt. Yes, ma'am, Stephanie.
So, this is all interesting. As far as the steward asking for, being able to do, like curriculum, let's just say that's easiest. As for preschool, how do I go about that? Is that something I just talk to Barbara?
out all the time? I mean, is
They
that-
meet monthly.
Do I need to know 6 weeks in advance?
Great question. So she's asking for my committee, my team, how do I spend money? How do I request money? Basically what you would do is stewardship meets every month.
Okay.
There's a request form that you can get from Barbara or from the office, or you can just talk to somebody on stewardship. Stewardship committee is made up. It's on your agenda, in your nominating report. It's me, Bill, John Platt, Carla, and Laura, and church clerk. Which right now the person running for church clerk is Gloria Peak. Yeah. So if she's approved. So anyway, one of those people you can say, hey, I want to do this, and they'll help you out. But we'll have to yeah.
And we can approve on the fly.
Yeah.
I mean, a couple of texts between us, it's over.
Yeah, we can, if it's something that, can't wait till the next meeting, or you just, I want to spend $20 on ice cream, can I do that? We can quickly, take care of that. Yes, sir, Ryan.
I have to one up her because
Yeah.
I can't believe she asked the question the first one.
Ryan.
So my question is, maybe answerable, maybe not, but I have been curious about it. So since we're in an open discussion, while we were still paying off the mortgage, okay, there was a lot of talk about we can't do the mission work that we want to do because so much of what we are bringing in is going to the mortgage.
Right.
Now the mortgage is paid off, we had this great fundraising event, and the Holy Spirit led us all to get that paid off, which was awesome. I haven't gotten any feedback for how the mission support has increased in the interim.
Great question. I understand what you're saying. I'll try to repeat that for the microphone. Tell me if I get it wrong. So when we were really doing the big push, we were like within, so many dollars of paying off the debt. We were like, come on, this will free us up to do more missions, to be more free in the budget, all that. And so now that we're debt free, have we really seen that? The answer is kind of yes and no. We also, so this year we had an air conditioner and we had some other expenses that we had to set money aside for. So some of those funds did end up going towards those types of things that which is great because God freed up enough room in our budget and to be able to pay for that air conditioner without having to go into debt or any other issues. So that was great. But as far as other mission work that hasn't materialized yet, the giving we're projecting giving to be somewhere around $220,000 for the year 2022. And so so that's why we did reduce the budget a little bit because we're not meeting full budget for 2022. So giving just isn't there. So just being really transparent. And so we did reduce it to kind of be, okay, we anticipate some growth, but we wanted the budget to be more realistic. So 2023 budgets, we cut it by about $20,000 to make it more in line with reality. So as far as missions, yes, if giving is where it was, then we'll have a surplus. We'll have money that we can definitely do the missions and other projects and things like that. And that's the exciting things about being debt free is we have more freedom in our, more freedom to make choices and to do different things that we'd like to do. So yes, that's definitely a very realistic possibility. We just got to make sure giving is there to kind of support that. So giving hasn't been as much this past year. It's been down a little bit, but not terrible, but it's been down a little. And so, does that answer the question?
It kind of does. What was the mortgage on a monthly basis?
He was asking what the mortgage was. It was around $4,600 a month.
30, 46.
Oh, 30.
32, 46.
Oh, 32. I'm sorry, 32.46 was what the mortgage payment was.
Very exact. Thank you.
That's very exact. There you go. Yes, ma'am, Sandy.
When you're talking about missions, what is it that we're doing to the Sunday school? It's front row and stuff, and we have to bring the stuff to them for every class. You know, they have to work for them. We're supposed to, thought we were supposed to start with a new curriculum because we've gone through a lot of nursery, we've gone through preschool, and we don't have established classrooms.
Right. So her question is.
I can't hear her.
Yeah, I'll repeat it for you. So let me make sure I get your question correct. So her question was, are we purchasing new curriculum to replace old curriculum and curriculum that maybe we've been using year and year over and again? We have the ability to. I know in some of the areas they have bought new curriculum. I don't know that they have in every class, but they certainly could. So if preschool said, "Hey, we want to buy some new stuff. This looks really great," and take it to stewardship, and we'll talk about it. So definitely can. Yes. I know that the kids did buy new curriculum. I don't know about preschool. I don't know if you did or not. Okay. Does that answer the question? So yes, the potential's there. Where if a teacher requested it and said, "Hey, we found this stuff. It looks great, and I'd like to teach it," then we'll look it over and talk about it in stewardship. Any other questions related to the budget? How many we got online right now? Please say 6. 5? We gained 1. Somebody's. Huh? Oh, we don't know their members. Okay. All right, we just can't do it. All right.
Somebody from Taiwan.
That's true. That's true. Somebody going, "Whoa, let's look at this fun church business meeting. That sounds like something to do on a Sunday night." Okay. Anyway, so okay. Any other discussion on budget? Then we'll ask other random questions. I think Bill had a question not related to it, so I want to make sure I get to that. Okay. Free for all. Anything you ever wanted to know, but we're too afraid to ask. Bill, do you remember your question?
To do with the receipts
Okay.
being
Okay.
given to the church.
So we already
or
touched on
it's
that.
you. Thank you.
You already touched on that. Joe.
Somewhere along the line, I was told that the mission Bristol was for establishing missions or contributing to the mission. Does that mean missions within our church, or missions like, say, Slotty Moon, some of the other things out there?
Both. So the mission thrift stores are. His question was the mission thrift store. The mission part of it. Where is the mission in the church? Is it other kind of national or regional things outside of the church? So both. The mission thrift store is our primary mission to our community. So as far as people outside the church, they're the biggest outreach that we do day in and day out, right? Food pantry, all the different things that they do over there. So we're very grateful to the volunteers over the thrift store because that's our main mission to the community. So in that way, yes. They also do have, they don't really want to call it profit because it's not really, but after their expenses, they have some money that does come in that was going towards other projects and other things that are outside of the mission thrift store just here in Port St. John. Does that make sense? So kind of both. It's both. Somebody I thought had a hand up over here. Does that answer that?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. So
I'm not really sure what I meant by the question, really.
okay. So it works here with the community in Port St. John, but also there's other things that they give to beyond Port St. John.
Basically, he's asking what was the mission of the mission thrift store?
The mission of the mission thrift store primarily is to reach Port St. John to meet physical needs so that we have opportunity to speak to spiritual needs. So when somebody is having a crisis, their house burned down, they've lost their job, whatever it is, they're homeless, we try to minister to their physical needs in the hope of connecting with them and talking about deeper spiritual things. So that's the mission of the mission thrift store.
Am I off base that the thrift store would put in money to like Lottie Moon?
I don't think they did the Lottie Moon, but they do support some mission things. I don't off the top of my head know what all of them are, but I do know that they do support different mission things.
Any of the money comes back to the church itself?
Not to the church itself. Some of the proceeds, let's call it proceeds, was going to help with debt retirement. They were going towards that. But now that we don't have debt retirement anymore, stewardship's actually looking at what they're going to do with some of those proceeds. But it hasn't ever gone to the general fund of the budget. It's been gone to, that's what helped us get somewhat debt free though, was they fueled that some. So, yes, ma'am, Henry. Yes. Yeah, so let me clarify on that. So she's asking about the Mission Thrift Store trustee. And actually, it's the way it's always worked, as long as I've been here, was the trustees would select from within their group, they would appoint somebody to be the point person for the Mission Thrift Store. They'd say, okay, Bubba, you're a thrift store guy. And so that's kind of the point. But it was Patrick for a long time. And so if they had a problem with an air conditioner, they would say, hey, Patrick, we got a problem with the air conditioner. And so they kind of had a point person that would kind of take care of that building primarily. And they were kind of that building's trustee. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a way to spread out the work among the trustees. Yes. So the trustees need to meet and appoint one of their own to do that. Right. So right. So currently, the thrift store would have to just go to the trustees. They don't have a trustee appointed for that. The trustees need to appoint to select somebody to do that. They should. Yep. They should. They need to meet and appoint for that role. To appoint to give somebody that job of their own. Right. That's why it's better to have a Mission Thrift Store trustee. Now, the trustees have not been meeting as regularly as they should. I'll just be honest. And so that's part of the issues. They need to get on track with meetings and taking care of that business. Just being honest. Hey, we're talking church business here. Part of the deal. Yep.
I suggest that Mission Thrift Store have one of their people become a trustee.
They could.
That way they make sure that way they get represented and we know what's going on.
Sure.
Don't have any men that work over there, it's all women that work.
Doesn't have to be a woman. Doesn't have to be a man. Doesn't have to be a man. I mean, just.
You're not gonna find women up there that
Right.
He's just one of the girls, that's all right.
Right. So I'll just for the online purposes, can we just have the thrift store kind of choose somebody that is active in the thrift store to serve as trustee? Sure. They just have to go through the nominating process. Doesn't have to be a man. Anybody who's comfortable doing it.
on the ladder, but the screws in the
Well, that's not a trustee. That's a worker.
Yeah. A trustee who just,
Trustees don't put up no bolts.
well, they can, but,
over there. He was the trustee for the thrift store.
That
right.
was the day.
Yeah, so to clarify what the trustees do, the trustees are really just supposed to make sure that their primary thing that the trustees do is make sure the property is taken care of. That's their job. They also are the legal representative of the church. That's kind of the two hats they wear. Most of their work is taking care of the property. And so that doesn't necessarily mean Mr. Trustee's the guy that does change all the light bulbs and the filters. He just makes sure it's done. And so it might be, somebody's a trustee. You go say, hey, we have a problem with the air conditioner. Okay, I don't know anything about air conditioning, but I got a phone and I can call the air conditioning company, and get them to come look at it. You know what I mean? So they just make sure it gets taken care of. All right, any other questions? I don't want to belabor the non-business meeting, but, this is good discussion. At least we're answering questions. Pat was first, then Ryan. The question is, why do the men get more than women? Historically, that's just the way it is. Women do all the work and for half the pay. No, it's just what they asked for. I mean, that's the bottom line. Darlene could have asked for more. I don't know what her deal is. No, men's ministry requested that much. Darlene requested the amount she requested. It's just each individual ministry leader requested their budget. And so there is some variance there because as they planned out their year, they said, here's kind of what I think I'll need to do what I think I want to do this year. So there's some variance. That's where the variety is coming from. Well, sure. I don't know. No. So, yeah, we meet like once a month. Amazing. All right.
We're
Yeah.
just as active as the men or women's ministry, we just don't use tablecloth.
I don't know. I missed that.
If you would have been to our meeting on Saturday, you would understand that.
I think that was a joke.
We
I don't know what he said.
have a ministry and a men's ministry together.
Okay. I'm gonna give the floor to Ryan. I'm gonna give the floor to Ryan, and then we're probably going to start to wrap this sucker up.
Thank you. I raised my hand only to say that I want to thank the pastor, the deacons, the trustees, and all the other volunteers on this list. You guys do a great job.
Amen.
And I don't know if you guys get enough, and girls get enough appreciation.
Amen. I agree. Let's give everybody that serves in a different place or another, which is pretty much everybody in this room, let's give ourselves a nice pat on the back. No, thank you guys for what you do. I appreciate every one of you. We really, this is a church, and it runs on volunteers who step up in different roles and say, I would like to serve. So thank you for those of you who serve, which is pretty much everybody in this room. Thank you for what you do. We really, really do appreciate it. Okay, so we will have
We appreciate you.
Huh?
We appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. So unfortunately, we didn't have a business meeting, but we did have some nice discussion. We had a few laughs. I made some friends. What else could you ask?
Right.
So, so we will. Unfortunately, we just couldn't have the business meeting today. I wish we could have, but we will have it Sunday morning after church, and we will do our best to limit discussion because this was the time to have the discussion, and we'll just vote Sunday morning. Okay, I'll try to figure out that quorum thing, how to make that happen, how to add a agenda item without having a committee. I have to think through that. Might be bringing up your motion from the floor Sunday morning. That's probably the proper way to do it. But I'll check the bylaws. Yep.
I really think that if we, made a mistake, was asking people for ballots.
Yeah, that might be it. They thought I don't need to come to the meeting now. Yeah, that might have been it. Our hope was to those who are disenfranchised or who felt like, hey, I can't get to the meeting, but I'd like my vote to be there. You make my vote anyway. Yeah. Probably it. Okay. Well, guys, that was non-business meeting. Anybody want to close us in prayer? Anybody feel led? I can. Oh, William. Oh,
Joe's got it.
they can arm wrestle over.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
I seem to be the prayer guy today, so
Yeah,
I'll go ahead and do it.
yeah.
Have at it, brother.
Good luck, yes.
Lord God, thank you for what you do and what you provide us. We just thank you that you give us a budget that we can discuss and have a lively discussion about it. But Lord, at the end of the day, when we leave here, we need to be Christians and love each other and support each other in what we do. Lord, nothing should be personal here. We just should go about your business. And Lord, we just need to bind together as a church and make things happen to further your ministry. We thank you most of all for sending your son to die for us on that cross, because without him we'd be nothing. Lord, just thank you for the people that are volunteering here, as we talked about earlier. And Lord, we just pray that they're blessed in what they do, and Lord, that they feel that blessing, and just lift them up and let them know that this is all for the good of the church. And Lord, we just thank you that you give us the means to go out there and spread your word, still being a free country. And we pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Yeah, thank you, Joe.